Okay, so yesterday we were we were doing a sugya about getting drunk, and an incident where Rabbi Gamliel was walking along and he picked up, and there was bread. He picked it up, so that we were picking up at that story. So on Samich Dalit Amid Beis, Samich Dalit Amid Beis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. Amamar, going back over the Brisa, Amamar ve'emavirin al oichlin. The fact that Rabbi Gamliel told Rabbi Lloyd to go ahead and pick up the bread means you can't pass by food and not pick it up. So I'm Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, like Shanu El B'Daras HaRishaynos. That's in the early generations where you didn't have to worry about kishuf, that you would pick it up. She'ein B'nos Yisrael prutzas b'kshafim. B'nos Yisrael were not so widespread, the kishuf, casting spells. Al B'Daras HaChroinos she'B'nos Yisrael prutzas b'kshafim, then better go mavirin. It seems to be that there might be some kishuf in this loaf of bread, and if there's kishuf in the loaf of bread, and you pick it up, you'll be a haktetzaris. So therefore, avoid it. Go ahead and says Tana shleimim mavirin. If there are whole loaves of bread, then you can't pass by because then you have to worry about kshafim. You have to worry about kishuf. Psitin, if there are crumbs, ein mavirin. Then you don't go ahead and worry about that. Ein mavirin. Even though there's some people who are very crazy with psitim. And it says they went ahead and they made HaKadosh Baruch Hu cheap. Al ami b'shali sha'arim by handfuls of barley and with tutei lechem. So you see that they did practice kishuf. They machal Hashem by kishuf, and it says tutei lechem. And the Gemara the Shakti Begrayu, it doesn't mean they use the lechem as a means of casting spells. They pay them with psutei lechem. They pay them with bread, with broken pieces of bread. But in fact, on shafim will only be on whole loaves. So I learned this Gemara today, and I brought back such a funny maisa. I still remember one day I decided like to be nice to the birds. Nebuch the birds, it was a freezing day. The birds are around, they're hungry. I took a bread, I went up, I put it down. I felt so good about myself. Here I am. I'm not being selfish. I'm showing, halach v'drachav, being mahuchanom, achrum. I look out the window. A guy pulls up in his car, gets out, and he's taking the crumbs and he's picking up the crumbs. Some Sephardic guy. He said his father told him that you can't pass by bread without picking it up. You got to pick it up. I saw this Gemara today. I'm rolling. I'm just rolling. You couldn't catch it. I couldn't catch a break. Anyway, I haven't fed the bird since. Says the Gemara back. Rav Sheshes Mishum says Rav Sheshes Mishum Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. Says Rav Sheshes in the name of Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. Okay, it's very disturbing. I have to tell you, in school, I don't let them on after fuck. 2-3 minutes, you ain't in it. That's it. You're gone. It's very disturbing. Anyway, I can get everyone off the hook. We had such a Gemara earlier. We kind of saying, you force them to take the Torah. We had such a Gemara. This is another legal taina to get them off the hook. Why? Any averis that they done from the time of Beis Hamikdash till now, I can get off the hook. Because it says, listen now, you aniya, you poor one. Those people, they're drunk without yayin. So you see that what? The fact that we go through Galus, we're considered drunks. A drunk is not responsible for their deeds. So Mamela can get you off the hook by finding you're drunk. Right. Mesaveh, I'll show you, you can't get off the hook with a time of being drunk. Shikur mechoy mecha. A shikar goes ahead one and he makes a business deal. He goes ahead and he buys something. It's a deal. Umimcharay and a sale. Nimchar is a sale. Of averish yesh misa. If he does an averi, he kills somebody when he's drunk. Mimisa, I say we kill him. Malchus, if he eats chalev, if he eats a pig when he's drunk. Malkin, I say. Klala shel dava. Are you pikech l'chol dvarav? We'll consider a drunk like what? Like a pikeach. Ella, what's the difference between a drunk and a pikeach? El shepatim and tefillah. A drunk is pata from tefillah. If you're drunk, you should daven. So how can you tell me you can get people off the hook finding you drunk. You see, there's no difference between drunk and pikeach. So l'chari, you won't be able to get him off the hook. And for the Gemara, Ma yichonli liftar the kama. When Rabbi Ben Azai said, "I can get you off the hook," what did he meant? Nami didn't feel it. He goes, "I can pat you from davening." He didn't mean that I can pater him completely from being over every single avera. No, he meant I can pater you from davening. Right. When do we say a person is responsible for his actions if he doesn't reach to the shikura of light? If he reaches the madrega of the shikura of light, pata mikulam. Someone who reaches the, now just a reminder, Lot ended up so drunk he was with his daughters, he cohabitated with his daughters, and they had Ammon and Moab, right? And he never knew about it. So he was really, really drunk. If someone's drunk to that extent, then you're not responsible for your actions. I say over a story, Lil Nishus, my friend, my Chavatoy, Rav Matas Plum Zechet Tzadik Lebracha. There was a person at the time of the Goyin. The Goyins had a Talmud, the Rav Avram Danziger, the Chai Yodam. The Chai Yodam brings down the name of this person. His name is Rav Avli Pasvila. He's brought down the Sharit Tzion in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah. Rav Abi Pasvila. Listen to this story. It's the cutest story. This guy was a tremendous Rav. He was a tremendous, and there was a person who was collecting for Hafnasas Kala. He had to marry off his daughter, and he needed money. So what did he do? He went to Rav Avli Pasvila, and he asked him for a hamlatza. Hamlatza is that document that people go around with showing they have a right to collect tzedakah. So he told him he has to marry off his daughters, and he told him his mamaisa. Rav Avi Pasvila writes in this beautiful, beautiful hamlatza, showing. Anyway, the next day they find this guy drunk in the street, lying down, face down in the street, with the hamlatza right next to him. So they couldn't believe it. They pick up the hamlatza, they see that he wrote, that this is a fine Jew and such and such. They go ahead, they take the hamlatza, and they bring it back to Rav Avli Pasvila. They say, look, this is the guy who's drunk. We found him in the street. This is the one you wrote the hamlatza for. Anyway, the drunk wakes up. Lo and behold, he's looking for his hamlatza. He wants to collect money, and he can't find the letter. He doesn't have it. So he figured he lost it. So what's he going to do? He'll go back to Rav Avli Pasvila, and he'll ask him to write him another letter, another hamlatza. But he walks in there. He walks in there, and this Rav hamlatza greets him like it's Mashiach. He said, "You explained to me something I never understood in my life. Yasher kochacha. I never understood this Yasher kochacha." So he goes, "What did I tell you?" The guy, "What did I tell you?" He goes, "Because I never understood something. Why do they say shika v'light? We just had a Gemara, guys, right? Shika v'light, right? Drunk like. Why do we say shika v'light? Drunk like low. Like, why do you say it of all things? Why do you say shika v'nayach? Nayach was the first drunk in the Torah, right? He goes out of the teva. First thing he does, he plants a kerem and he gets drunk. So if you're going to go ahead and give a paradigm of a drunk, the one should be who? Should be Nayach. But you explained the difference to me. So he goes, why? So he goes, Nayach, he had no daughters to marry off. His sons were all married. He could get drunk. You have daughters to marry off. Like had daughters. Therefore we say, shika be light. So you explained something to me that I never understood. He goes, shika be light, that's derogatory. You got daughters to marry off, you're getting drunk. So I spoke by my sister Sheva Bracha. She married off her 7th daughter. And they had no more children to marry off. So I said, Sima, bottoms up. There you go, no problem. Isn't that a great Maisa? It's a great Maisa. I say shika be light. It's a great Maisa. Okay. Anyway, says the Gemara Vaita. Reb Chanina. Kol hamafik, says Reb Chanina, Kol hamafik mogen. Anyone who doesn't daven, b'shas gaiva, when he's drunk, soigrin v'chaismin tsaris ba'adoi. In Shemayim, they seal his tsaris that would have happened to him. Shenemar, gaiva afike moginim sogur chaisim tsar. If someone who's drunk, so it passes over him davening, and his trouble is contained within him. My mashmid hain afik lishn davurei. How do you know it means avurei lashon of passing over? The chsiv, it says achai bogdu. my brothers that they rebelled. Like the movement of a stream. Eli was complaining about his friends leaving him. So like Avayru, the lashon of passing by. Rabbi Yochanan says no. Kol sheina mafik itmar. Anyone who doesn't express, he doesn't go ahead and express his that when he's drunk, he's not able to go ahead and express it. My mashman the high mafik lishna de gluya. How do you know lashon? It means the lashon of Giluya. It says by Yoreu Afike Mayim and the Afike Mayim they became that you could see them. The Yigol and Moises Tevel and the earth became revealed. So you see the lashon Afike means to be revealed. It says the Gemara Michti Kroi Mashmak Bein Lamar. Each one has whether it's Reb Chanina or Reb Yochanan, each one has a way of explaining the word of Afik. My binai, what's the difference? It could be nice Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes Masa Shinsei L'Shameh. When Rav Sheshes was drunk, he gave it over to a shamus to wake him up. So Mar Islay Rav Sheshes, Rabbi Yochanan says, you can express yourself when you're drunk. He also like Rav Sheshes, that, go ahead, let me sleep it off a little bit and wake me up. And Rav Chanina says, no, you have to wake up on your own. He says, he doesn't want anyone waking it up because until he can wake it up, the lashon of mafik needs to be maver. Until all of the drink is maver, goes out of him, then you can't have him. So that would be the difference between the two of them. More about being drunk. A person who can't become settled, his mind can't become settled because he can't concentrate, shouldn't daven. None of these halachas apply to us, fellas, by the way. The halacha was responding when you're drunk, but the lashon of kavana, it's mashma that mashma you can have kavana all the other times. Don't fool around with that. Says the Gemara, Mishum Shenamar, Batzar al Yoira. Pasuk says, when you're in trouble, don't go give a hayra. Rashi and Tosfos both bring that this pasuk doesn't appear anywhere. It might be a part of the Ben Sira. That was some type of Yirmi had a son and who wrote down different things. All birds of fled flock together. He wrote down like sayings. So this could be a saying that Batzar al Yoira, you're in trouble, don't go and give a hira. Reb Chanina, when he was angry, David became angry, he would never go ahead and give a hira. Amar, of course, he said, Batzar al Yoira ksiv. It says when you're in trouble, don't go ahead and give hira. Marukva b'yom d'shusa, mayuka on the day of when the south wind would blow, will have enough at lebeidina. He won't go to court to paskin. Amar Nachman by Yitzchak, hilchasa boya tzilusa kiyuma de istana, right? Hilchasa boya, to go ahead and paskin halacha, you need to be clear like the north wind. The day the north wind blows seems to be what? A very clear day. Amar Abaya, Amali aim karov kutcha. My mother would say to me, meaning it's not his real mother, right? We spoke about who it was. It was his nanny who raised him up. So if she would say to him, in kareva kutcha, if my mother would ask me to pass the kutach, loy tanoi, I wouldn't go ahead and I wouldn't go ahead and I'd be distracted. I wouldn't be able to learn that day. Amar Rava, ikiratstan kina loy tanoi. Even if I was bitten by a kina, by a louse, I won't be able to learn that day. Ma'beid Ravina, Abdullah Ime Zayimine Lazayin Yume, the mother of Ravina, she made him 7 sets of clothing that he shouldn't be stared by what? He won't be stared by different bites of lice. In other words, so you'd have a change of clothing, you'd be able to check it for lice. Mashenkin, if you had 1 set of clothing, the chance of lice taking hold of your clothing was much greater. Amar Rav Yehuda, le'ivre laila el l'shinsa. Night was created for sleeping. The purpose of night was that you go ahead and sleeping. Tosfos says it's the nights we're out when there's little time to learn. In other words, those summer nights when they're the long days, so you learn the whole day. So why you have night? That's to sleep and refresh yourself. Amar Shimon ben Lakish, le'ivre sehira. Moonlight was created el l'girsa. Moonlight was created el l'girsa. It's a very famous meister with Rabbi Simcha, Meshech Chachma. His wife was Nifta. He was a man. Well, I think he was Nifta at 83 years old. He was old. So on Friday night they'd have Bachrim who would come eat with him just to go ahead and watch him because he's an old man. So there was this Bacha. Fashtetzach, they didn't have this really long meal, quick meal, and the Meshech Chachma sat down to learn. And the Bacha sat down and he was learning. And It's getting late, and he's getting tired. He wants to go to sleep, but he can't go to sleep because Rabbi Simcha is not sleeping yet. And it's getting later. Rabbi Simcha is learning, and he's getting tired, the boy. And finally, it gets like really, really, the candle burns out, and the house is pitch black. So Baruch Hashem, he says, that's wonderful. He's going to go to sleep. So he goes, lies down, and all of a sudden he hears a noise of the table being schlepped. He goes, he finds Rameh Simcha. There was like a little skylight, like a little light, and Rameh Simcha was doing a sefer learning at the moonlight, coming in a little bit from there. That was the level to Rameh Simcha. It's unbelievable. He goes, so I saw the Gemara that you learn by moonlight. I thought of Rameh Simcha. That the Ma'aser Rameh Simcha, that you learn by moonlight. Amalei Reb Zera, Mechadin Shemaitcha. People tell Reb Zera that you're very sharp. You're saying very sharp things. Samalu, the Yamama Ninu. He said that from what I learned during the day. So you have clarity. There's machlokes about where's your best learning done, during the day, during the night. I think it would depend upon the person. Generally they're night people and they're day people, and people are morning people. So some people can only learn in the morning and early hours, and some people in the early hours in the morning, all they can do is barely open their eyes. And some people can learn late at night. It's very interesting. There's a daf that starts at 10 o'clock. Moshe Meir Weiss gives a daf that starts at 10 p.m. A lot of people learn at that daf. Again, so many people at 10 p.m. are comatose. It really depends upon the individual. Amalei Barti, the Rav Chisda, the daughter of Chisda, is Rav Chisda. Like boy mar meinam porta, don't you have to sleep a little bit? A little bit. Amalei said, Hashta asi yuma daviche. Eventually, the long day will come, meaning when I'll be lying in my grave. Ukatini v'neinim tu, and when that day comes, right, then I won't have time to learn. So therefore, I'm l'chaper right now. They say the Vilna Gaon slept an hour and a half hour. So you had 3 power naps of a night, a half hour. He had power naps. Also, in addition, I don't know for the young people in the share, but as you age, you need much less sleep. As you age, you need much. I don't need as much sleep now as I did when I was younger. And I heard since your time on earth is getting shorter, because Baruch Hu gives you a gift. He gives you longer days to go ahead and maximize your time. And that's why young people sleep much longer, but older people don't have to sleep as much. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Anan poile di imama anan. Right? We who study Torah, we work during the day, right? With daytime workers, right? In other words, we're clear because we work during the day, meaning we have clarity because of the daytime learning. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Yosef Upara. We met him yesterday. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, we said he was muflik, he was outstanding, he would borrow and he would repay. In other words, he had X amount of time he would set for learning. If he had to go to business, what he would do was he would go to business, and then at night he would repay the hours that I during the day. I've had many chavusas over the years. One person, he had a mark, some type of counter in his pocket, and I figured out that he would use that counter to figure out how many hours a day he's learning. He wanted to make sure he set an amount for himself, and he would go ahead and keep count. And he would use that counter like he can learn 4 hours a day. It doesn't mean you can learn 4 hours a day in a row, but he meant, he kept count of how long he's going to learn. Talking about davening without kavana, it says a person who comes from the derech, he shouldn't daven for 3 days. Now, the Shulchan Aruch brings this down and says it doesn't apply to us. He can't daven because it takes him 3 days to get his kavana back. But we who, in fact, we have difficulty with kavana, so of course this doesn't apply to us, because guaranteed, if you don't wait, you're not going to daven any better 3 days later than the day you get off the plane. It's not like that. Shenemar, it says by Ezra, the kapsem al nahor abo el achva. He said, I gather them to the river which comes to Achva. We rested there for 3 days. Then I went ahead, and I used my bina to discern the people. He says it took 3 days for his bina to be mechaven to understand the people. So the same thing by davening. It takes 3 days to go ahead and get your kalim back. Avu de Shmuel ki asei be'orcha. The father of Shmuel when he would go ahead and come from the road, he went daven for 3 days. Shmuel could not daven in a house that there was the smell of beer, because that was something that stirred him, it intoxicated him. Papa wouldn't daven in a house that had fried fish. I also would not daven in a house that had fried fish. Not that I remember Papa, but it's interesting. Papa was you think he would be the person who had the beer problem, right? Because Papa was the Papa Weiser. He was the beer merchant, right? We had that in Masechta Shabbos. He was selling people get the wine, drink beer.
No fish and chips at his pub.
No fish and chips. Anyone who, when he drinks wine, it will appease others for what they did to him, is yeshba midas koinoi. That's one of the das of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He has one of the midas of Hashem, that an external will go ahead and help you to forgive or overlook something. So you have a little wine. You know what? Takes the edge off. You don't get so angry anymore. That's the midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Where do you see that? It says after the Mabul, he smelled the reich nichoyav with the karbanis, and he said, "Guess what? That's it. I'm not going to destroy the world again." Anyone who goes ahead and the wine gets clear by drinking a little wine, yesh by das ayin sekanim. He has the das of the 70 sekanim. We'll see Rashi in a second. Yayin nitein ba'ayin oisies. The word yayin is 70. V'soid nitein ba'ayin oisies. And the gematria of soid means secret is 70. Nichnas yayin, once yayin goes in, yotza soid, then soid comes out. So let's see Rashi over here. He drinks wine, but his das is not mitarif, it's not mixed up. I guess the word we discombobulated. Nitain b'shivim oisios kach cheshboinei b'gematria yotza soid. That's unusually if a person drinks wine, yotza soid. You know what the person's about. Since the person he drinks wine, but soid doesn't come out, meaning he's able to retain his senses. Shakalhu Sanhedrin shel ayin, he's equal to the Sanhedrin of Zion of 70, of ayin of 70. So that's a very, very interesting pshat. Amrav Chonen le'nivri yayin l'nachim avelim.
This davening is not the davening that we have. That they was started the Anshe Knesset Agadola. This was a personal davening that each individual did, right? That's when he stood. They don't have. It's not the fixed.
But whatever it is, you need a certain amount of kivun, right? You need a certain amount of kavanah.
Right. So I'm saying, yeah, that would be uniform.
So it's the same. It's the same thing. No, again, if you can't be mechavein, then it will be the same problem.
Because I would think it would be more applicable at it because it was a davening. It was a davening that each individual davened.
You're supposed to know the meaning of the words. At least in the first bracha of Shemona Esrei, you're supposed to know, right?
You understand me? Okay.
Again, we don't. For example, Chasen's part from Kriya Shema. We don't do that. We say Kriya Shema. We daven. Again, we don't have the kavan of these people. So again, it's a moot point.
Okay.
Anyway, says Amrav Chanan, like nivri yayin elu lenachem avelim. Leilenu people are what? They're in basically it's a drug. You basically it's a drug, right? You take some yayin because you're a little down, you're depressed, you avelim. So in order to go ahead and give a little nichem, so you go ahead and drink a little bit. U'lashalim schal rishayim. Also for rishayim, give him something to drink. Shenemar tenu sheicha la'oved. Give sheicha wine to what? To the wicked people, right? And the pasuk finishes off and wine to what? To the people who are fabisim. Amrav Chanan bar Papa kol she'ein yayin nishbach b'seich kemayin. Anyone who's home, they don't have wine flowing like water. Eina b'chal bracha. That person is not rich. That's not a person who has a rich house. Shenemar uberich es lachmecha v'esmeimecha. Pasuk says he'll bless your bread and your water. Now what do you mean to bless your water? This is speaking about what? Ma lechem nikach b'kesef ma'isa, just like lechem can be purchased with ma'isa shena money. Af mayim shenikach b'kesef ma'isa. Now we had early in the Masechta that you cannot purchase two things you can't purchase with ma'isa sheni money are mayim and melach, right? Because they're loizon, they don't satiate. So when it says over here that you could purchase mayim, it must mean really yayin. Therefore, we say that it has to flow kemayim. So therefore, that's the play in words. Af mayim shenika b'kesef ma'isa. What is this water that you can buy with kesef ma'isa? It can't mean real water, guys, because real water, in fact, you can't buy. It's yayin. We could correlate mayim. It's yayin, and we call it mayim. Inish bach b'beisa kemayim ikabracha. Then there's this bracha in the house, this wealth in the house. The loy, and if it's not there in volume, then not. The three ways you can recognize an individual: b'kaisai, ubekisai, ubekasai. When he gets b'kaisai, when he gets drunk, you get to see what a person's about because all the filters come down. Ubekisai, when it comes to money. When it comes to money, Rashi says, does he do business be'amuna? Is he trustworthy in his business dealings? I might add if he's generous. Sometimes you see people in the money, you see that the type of the tsaritzayin that they're cheap, and it's indicative of a certain personality. And so by being more generous, it shows a different personality. It shows a tremendous personality trait. And their anger. You see when a person's angry, you can be shocked. I once gave a shmooze about anger. And the most effective thing was, I said, I've never met a person who didn't lose the respect for a person who got angry. In other words, you viewed the person a certain way, and then you see the person getting angry. It takes away from some way, somehow, you didn't respect the person the same as before. It showed some type of, again, it depends what they're angry about. Bekasli means that over here, I'm talking about not where you have a right to be angry. I'm talking about stamazlay. Even the way they laugh, even the way a person laughs, sometimes you can laugh in a way that's degrading, and sometimes it can ikvat, or sometimes the Yavit says, I found in the Sefer Shir Mitzvah Halacha, says that you withhold laughter for the right time. You laugh at the right times in a certain way, but you don't always laugh. Anyway, that's the end of. It's back to Eruvin. Okay, it's back to Eruvin. Okay, let's go back. Machloikis Reb Meir and Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov in our Mishnah. Said Reb Meir, one guy, one yid, you're stuck in your house. The guy is not the Torah of Erev. He's not allowed to be mevatel his rishus. The only avenue you have to possibly get the rights in the chutzner is to rent. And he's not going to rent to you. We said two reasons. Either because you require a healthy rental where you're going to be putting chafetzim in there, or even so, even a rental that's not so strong, you're worried about kshafim, about the guy is worried, he's not going to rent to you. So one-on-one, you're finished. Says Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, no. The goy shmei dira is not a dira. The only way you can become asa if there's an other Jew to asa you. So when there's two Jews and one guy, then the scenario presents itself for Issa. Conversely, if there's only one-on-one, there's not. That was one machlekes we had. In addition, we had another machlekes going back in time. You have a chutzner. I'm not going to go all the way back, but let's see what I got over here. We're in business, guys? Yes, we're in business?
Yeah, all good, yep.
Yes.
You have Rishus Harabim. Here, let's say you have two Jews. Forget the Nachri. You have two Jews, and he has to walk out the door over here. So the Chacham said, if they didn't make an Erev over here, then it's also over here. If they made an Erev over here, then we say regel hamuteres bimkomo, a regel that's mutter in its place, einu oiser leoiser, out of its place. Why? Close the doors. You're permitted to carry, and this case will be kofen al midas sedoim. By closing the door, this will be an independent chutzner. This will be an independent chutzner, and this guy will be able to carry out here. Rabbi Akiva says no. Says Rabbi Akiva, regel hamuteres b'mkomo is asa shelo b'mkomo. Meaning, even he says, since you have rights to walk out of here, your drisas haregel over here, the fact that you can walk out over here would asa this person as well. So here we have the following shaila. In this scenario, would you have to rent from the guy or not? In this scenario, would you have to rent from the guy or not? So now, is this like Reb Meir or like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov? On one hand, I can say it's like Reb Meir, so this would be usher. Since this is usher, this guy would be also usher unless you rent. Conversely, I could also say, if it's like Reb Meir, why do I need this guy over here? Reb Meir's scenario is a yid and a goy, mano al mano. Why would you need him? Ella must be according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. If it's according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, l'chayra, they're not in the same chutzner, right? He's over here and he's over here. So if it's not the same chutzner, how could this failure to make an erev over here and failure to rent affect him? Well, if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, if you hold like the Chachamim or Rabbi Akiva, if you hold like Rabbi Akiva and even the Chachamim, since over here it'd be Aser, he has rights over here that makes this one big chutzner. Therefore, it would be like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, 2 Yidden, 1 Goy. And now with that background, we can go back inside the Gemara and see what it's talking about. Okay. Let's see with that background. There's two machlokes in. Let's see the Gemara. Then I'll get back to the picture, and everyone's going to go to sleep happy tonight knowing a difficult Gemara. Okay? Says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Yisrael v'nachri b'pnimius. Right? We had that picture. I guess, you know what, I really have to do this. Let's do it this. Yisrael v'nachri in the pnimi, in the inner chutzner, guys. You have a Yisrael and a nachri. Yisrael b'chitzayna, and the outside you have one yid living over here. Rebbe v'aser. This outside not carry until they rent from the nachri. You hear this? This outside one over here, he cannot. Anyway. So he cannot go ahead. He has to rent. He has to rent from here. If not, he can't carry. Lifnei Reb Chia v'aser, same thing. So not only did Rebbe say it's aser, Reb Chia also said it's aser. Yosef Rabbi Yosef b'shli pirko de Reb Sheshes. The Amoroyim, Rabbi and Reb Yosef, were talking after the end of a shir from Reb Sheshes. Yosef Reb Sheshes v'kamar. Kiman Omer Rav, who did Rav say it according to? That it's this person in the outer chutzner is aser, right? Kirev Meir. So that's what he said. Rav Shesha said Kirev Meir. So Korochish Rabba Reisha. Rabba was nodding his head. Yes, this is according to Reb Meir. This guy is aser and this guy is aser, and therefore he's aser. Amr Rav Yosef Trei Gav Ravavi Rabbanan Litu. Will 2 great chachamim, such as Rabba and Rav Sheshes, make a mistake in this din? Bahamilsa, Ikreb Meir, Lamali Yisrael b'chitzayna. If it's according to Reb Meir, remember guys, Reb Meir says mano al mano. So why do I need this person to make a rental? You would need this person alone would require a rental. Not only is he be aser, he would be aser. Guys, again, Reb Meir, take away the chatzar chitzayna. Like Reb Meir, he would have to rent. correct? Because Rameh says that Rameh is chayish l'miyuta. Remember, Rameh says, despite the fact that goy may kill you, he's chayish for that case, and therefore the Chacham made a gezerah shall yilmu b'maisav. You should learn from his actions. You have to go ahead and rent. So why would you need the outside Yisrael to go ahead and engage that scenario? Even without him, he'd have to rent. So how can you say it's according to Reb Meir when the case was there's two Chatzerim with two Jews? And if you're going to say, well, you're right, but it happened to be that this was the Shiloh. So we didn't need this out one to say you have to rent. Even if there was no out of Chatzah, you'd have to rent like Reb Meir because it's mano a mano. However, the Shiloh happened to be like this. Says the Gemara, boy, may Rav, the yes Rav, Panimi Komo Mahu. What happens if there's no outside Chatzar? What happens if it's only the inside Chatzar? For Amalahem, and Rav said, Mutter. Guys, look at the picture. Light Rav, if you hold like Reb Meir, would this be Mutter? Yisrael v'Nachri? No. Ella, you know why it's Mutter? Because he holds like Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov. And the only scenario of creating Isser is where you have two Jews. So how can Rabbah and Rav Sheshes both agree in this case that it's according to Reb Meir? It can't be, because the only reason it's Usser is because of the two Jews. That's Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov. And that's who Rav said the halakha according to. So back to first base. What exactly is Pshat in this case? Why would he go ahead and the failure to rent, why would it go ahead and ask him on the outside one? Guys, how are we doing? I gave you a lot of information. Was good? The picture was good? Yes, right? Okay, let's set it up, right? It obviously, it's not the fact that the Shaila happened to be that way. It was Dafka that way. In other words, Rav would have held, if it would be mano al mano, it would be mutter. You wouldn't have to rent. Why? Because Rav holds like Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, that the scenario of a guy causing a problem is only when you have two Jews asking on each other. So Yitaka needed the outer chutzner. The question is, how could the outer chutzner aser, why would he have to rent? He's not part of the inner chutzner. So you're right. Guys, look, you're right. Let's see the picture again. You're right. The outer chutzner, it's considered, I got two Jews and one guy. The math matches up. Two Jews, one guy, it matches up. What doesn't match up, why is this considered one chutzner, right? In order for this to be a problem that he would have to rent from him, it has to be considered one chutzner. What creates the one chutzner? For that we need Rabbi Akiva. For that we need Rabbi Akiva saying, since I'm mutter in this place, I can walk out. That makes my Drisas HaRegel, since I only can exit to the Shus HaRabim, through your Shus, makes it one big chutzner. And therefore you have to rent. That's the scenario. Says the Gemara inside.
Laser, does it have to do with the fact that the guy can walk through the other?
As well. The Elamai, Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, you're going to say it's according to Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov, Ha'amar at sheyiyu shnei Yisraelim oisrim ze'al zeh. So, and what? And they're not in the same chutzner. Ella, Rebbe Akiva, the Amar, regel hamuteres b'mkoma, guys, the regel that permits in one place, the regel, here you go, you made an Erev together, you and the Nachri, let's say, made an Erev together, Oiseres Shaloibim Kaima. So with Asa Shaloibim Kaima, so it says, Gemara, Lamali Nachri, Afil Yisrael Nami. Even if this was, take out the Nachri, put a Yisrael over here, Light Rebbe Akiva, it would Asa over here. Why? Regel HaMuteres B'mkomo. I make an Erev, two Jews make an Erev, and therefore they can carry over here. It's a Regel Muteres. Since they have rights to go out here, it would also Asa. So why would you need a guy? So I'm Rav Huna Rabbi Yeshua Lo'ilam Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov Rebbe Akiva, like both of them. Both of them, we can combine the two. For Hacham and Mayaskinon, Kegoin She'irvu. They made an Erev. For time of the Ikanachri, the Usser. The reason why they made an Erev, the reason why this person can't carry. The lek, why is lek the nachri? Because the nachri in an Erev doesn't count. Like Rabbi Akiva, you made an Erev, right? Guys, look at the picture. Since Rabbi Akiva holds this Yisrael has Drisas Reglayim over here, the way to go ahead and correct it is make an Erev. So him and him, Jew A and Jew B, Jew Panimi and Jew Chitzayna, they made an Erev. Why isn't that Erev good? Because they got a Nachri who goes ahead and has Rishus over here, right? So therefore, what do we need? We need him to go ahead and rent. By renting, that takes care of that problem, and therefore what? It would be permitted. So it comes out, let's like this, comes out Kishmak. We paskin like Rabbi Eliezer and Yaakov, you need 2 Jews and a goy, you need 2 Jews to ask on itself to engage the goy for rental. Why do you go to rental? This should be asr over here, this should be mutter. This should be asr, because his rental over here is not going to help. And it should be mutter, really. Guys, it should be mutter. Since Allah is like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, why should he have to go ahead? Guys, look at this. Look at the picture. He should not have to go make a rental. Why? Because we pass like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Mano al mano is mutter. Milsad le'shchichi le'gazu rabbanan. Milsad le'shchichi, the rabbanan are not going to be geyser. So what's the problem? Why does he have to rent? Why does he have to rent? Because we hold like Rabbi Akiva as well. Says Rabbi Akiva, since the Yisrael can walk out this way, and Steve, the guy, can walk out this way, the fact that they have rights over here requires, will not permit it, without permitted until he rents. Read the Gemara, but they're still considered 2 separate people, and we pass like Rabbi Yaakov, says the Gemara, by going ahead and having them engage together in an Erev, so now it creates, it's one big chutzner, you have an Erev. For the Nachri, if you have an Erev, you need a Nachri to rent. And that's the scenario why Rabbi and Reb Chanina required a rental. Now, what about this way? Same scenario, except they're over here. Now, basically, it's the same. 2 Yisraels, 1 Nachri. The Me'at seems to be the same, but there's a different Shiloh over here. And the different Shiloh would be what the guy is thinking. The guy says over here, look at this, guys. If I kill him, this guy's going to say, hey, where's Yankel? You know, I haven't seen Yankel. Yankel has to pass by, correct? I haven't seen Yankel in a few days. Where is he? So in that scenario, we're not worried the guy is going to kill him. Mashenkin over here, here's the Yisrael. If he kills him over here, he walks out, he'll say, where's Yankel? He'll say, well, Yankel left. Yankel left over here. So therefore, maybe the Shiloh is different. Maybe the Shiloh there is different. That's what the Gemara is going to present. Says the Gemara. Boy minei Reb Elazar. Let's change the gear. So boy minei Reb Elazar may Rav. Yisrael v'nachri b'chitzayna. The Yisrael and the Nachri are on the outer one. If Yisrael b'pnimius and the Yisrael is in the inner one. Mahu. What's the din? Chasam taima mishum the shchichi the diary. Over there in the first scenario, it's shaykh that the inner guy is going to live with the guy. The mirsis nachri, the guy is scared to kill him. The sava hashtas Yisrael v'amali Yisrael the habigabah hecha. Yisrael that was by you. Where is he? So in this scenario, he's worried. This guy is going to say, 1 second, where's Yankel? I haven't seen him. So since he's worried, it's a the shchichi for them to live together. Milsa the shchichi goes rabbanon. And therefore you have to rent. Aval hacha, but in this scenario, we're in the outer one. Amin alei, if this yid comes and says, where's this yid? The guy is going to say, he went. So therefore the guy is not scared to kill him. If the guy is not scared to kill him, it's a milsav le'shchichi, le'gazu rabbanan, that he would live with him. Again, we're using that svara. Only by 2 will we go ahead and say that they're engaged. We said, but without that, not. Again, what's the reason? Since what? The whole reason for this is you should learn from his actions. They only begoys are in a scenario that is plausible. This is not a plausible scenario. Why? Because this yid is going to tell Jew, he's going to tell this Jew, this one, when he comes out, he's going to ask him, where is this guy? He's going to say left. So therefore, they're not going to live together because he's not worried anymore, and he might kill him. And therefore, goes Rabbanan. So even in this scenario, he's scared. The Sava hashtasi Yisrael v'chazili. Maybe when I'm killing him, this guy's going to walk out and see me. So Amalei, so Rav answered him, Tein l'chacham v'yech gemoid. Just like over here, it's usher until you rent. So too over here, it's usher until you rent. In both scenarios, it's going to be usher. So the Geshmaka Gemara. Good lomdis from both stadim of two halachas that we're familiar with. Okay, let's do one more case. Reish Lakish v'tamidei de Reb Chanina ikloy lahu pundik. Reish Lakish and the Talmid of Reb Chanina, they came to an inn. The person who rented, the guy who rented in the inn wasn't there. However, the Havi Masker, but the landlord was. So the Kashayla is going to be, we know in order to go ahead and use an Erev, you have to rent from a guy. Can we rent from the landlord? Would that be good in place of the guy? Would renting from the landlord be tantamount as you going ahead and renting from the guy, and you would be able to use it or not? So Amru, Ma'ulam Mega Mine, what's the halacha? Can we go ahead and rent from the landlord? If the landlord's not able to get rid of the guy, he's got an ironclad lease and he can't get rid of him. It's not a shaila, you can't rent because he's not the balabas. The guy, the renter is the balabas. Kiti boy, when's the shaila? He lives on a monthly basis, right? And he can throw him out anytime he wants. So there, in that scenario, do we say what you can pay money to the masker or not? Even the matzi masalik agrina, since he's able to go ahead and get the marshal to throw him out, therefore you can from him, or you can pay him the rent, and therefore you'll be more to carry. The bottom line is he didn't take him out yet. Someone Reish Lakish answered them, Nischar, Safik de Rabbanan Lahakol, we'll go ahead and rent. We'll go ahead and rent from the landlord. When we get to Achacham in the south, in other words, Rashi brings, since Eruvin is the Rabbanan, Safik the Rabbanan Lahako, we'll rent from the landlord, and then we'll see what the halach is. Also, Shaila Rabbi Afis, they came to the south, they found Rabbi Afis, Amalahem, Yafas Yashem, Sesachartem. You did a good job by renting. Yafa Yashem Sesachartem. I thank you all for listening.